Hi guys, and welcome to another episode. Today I have the honor and the pleasure of sitting down with somebody who I've been looking forward to speaking with for a long time. That is, of course, Mr. Sean Anderson. And Sean Anderson is the VP of Commercial Relations with Worbli. And I guess, Sean, to kind of start off, if you don't mind, just kind of giving a breakdown on what you do with Worbli and some of the things that your day-to-day might involve.
Yeah, I work with, obviously, in the really commercial relations is about business development. So my role is to help people kind of really take whatever idea that they have and they're thinking, man, this would be great on the blockchain. And I help them figure out how that would operate on the Worbli chain and within the Worbli community and ecosystem. So my day-to-day is I get emails or people fill out a form and they say, hey, I've got this amazing thing that I think would be fantastic with Worbli. And then I kind of walk alongside them in those beginning stages to try to figure out, is it a right fit and what does that look like? And then if it is, then kind of we start a process of onboarding them into the system. And for some, it might be like, I just want to go take this for a test drive. And so I'll connect. I work closely with tech, both tech and marketing, so I'll help them get connected to our tech team in order to take their idea, if they've got something built out for a test drive on the test net.
It's actually kind of a really exciting job because you're literally like right there at the forefront, seeing some of the capabilities of like what's going on.
Yeah.
If people had any questions, one of the questions they might want to ask you, Sean, is what are some of the companies that are starting to take notice of the technology that Worbli has? And what is kind of the general reaction to it so far?
Yeah, it's been really positive because once people kind of figure out, because people have all these preconceived notions about blockchain, they have these ideas, if they're not coming from that world at all, and we think of ourselves as a software company that utilizes blockchain as our enterprise grade platform. So we communicate it. That's the story we're telling in order to help people kind of understand where we're coming from. And generally people, it's kind of eye-opening. I was sitting with someone a few weeks ago who has this very extensive investment securities background. This is a person who's had his hands in logistics. He's had his hands in electric companies. He's got his hands in ride-sharing programs. And so he's this super entrepreneur, I guess. And I have worked with him on a few different projects, and so I was asking about one of his previous projects, and he said, oh yeah, we're trying to raise funds for this. And it's an industry way outside of what often people think of in the blockchain world, which was mining. And I said, oh, we should tokenize that. And then out of that became an incredible synergy. And up to that point, he had been kind of like, a year ago when I talked to him about like blockchain, he'd be like, please, that's going to go away. And then over the last 12 months, he's been more like, I kind of think it's the future. And this is a really, really smart guy who's, like I said, has his hands on a lot of pies. And he said, and when I brought that up and we started looking at what that would look like, he got really, really excited. And then that developed into a plan and an application, and that's all happening very fast. But it's actually coming to life, and so we're really excited about it because it's things like that. Whether it's a logistics company or a rideshare company, this is something that is industry disruptive in a positive way, and so we're really stoked about those types of things.
For me, that's what's really exciting about, you'll hear me say it if you're ever in the Telegram, tokenize everything. I just think, it's so simple. It's an identity layer with EOSIO, but it's game changing for some of the repercussions that it opens up, especially with financial institutions and of course different types of investments that we're talking about here. So yeah, I love it. Like, I think tokenize everything. I wanted to ask you though, Sean, of course, like Worbli is this big team, but you're at the forefront. You're doing a lot of the kind of, the onboarding of a lot of different companies. I guess my question for you is, in your own words, in your own mind, what is Worbli in like 5 years?
Be a platform that some people will interact with and not even know they're interacting with it. And some people will know, you know, some people know when they're interacting with an app that's on AWS, but it's a really small percentage of people. I think there'll be lots and lots of apps that people, they might go to Worbli's, app store and get the app from there, or they might be on iOS, or they might be somewhere online and find some landing page connected to some application and go, oh, that's something I really need. And those people might find their way into the different frameworks that Worbli's planning on building. So, you know, like there's that we have this plan for a framework where you're going to have all these different types of, things that are crypto fiat gateways and all kinds of things that have to do more when people think of kind of banking that will be inside that framework, remittance apps. And then there might be some other ones that are outside of that framework and people interact with on a day-to-day basis because it's made their life easier. And they might be utilizing tokens and not even be thinking about the fact that it's built on this infrastructure that is blockchain.
That's what Dan Larimer said a little while ago, is that the best applications are going to be the ones that kind of mask the blockchain element by using the best part of the technology. So right. I think that's probably a really good strategy, and it's a good way to go about it. Some people have a certain disposition to blockchain, but if you can onboard them into using a system where they don't even know that they're using, they just know that it's effective, it's fast, and it works.
Exactly. And that it adds a different layer of openness and security that they weren't aware of, but now all of a sudden they take for granted.
Absolutely.
What
are some of the problems that Worbli might be able to solve that weren't as easily solved previously, or perhaps not even solvable prior to some of this technology?
Well, I think there are opportunities. You talk about tokenizing everything, and I think that's really funny and brilliant. There are things that people have not been able to be involved in from a financial perspective that all of a sudden, because of the AML and KYC and the infrastructure, the speed and the simplicity, once you go through the process, the AML KYC process, all of a sudden, the simple interaction that you can have with all these different apps is incredible. And to answer the question, I think the door is opening for specific industries and businesses that weren't available to a vast majority of the population in the past. When you can micronize certain types of things that weren't available, you can be. I'm sitting in my favorite coffee shop right now in my hometown, and it's motorcycles and beer and coffee, and so I'm surrounded by all these innovative people, but they don't necessarily. There's certain things that they can't get involved in because they don't either have the resources or they don't have access. And when you can micronize certain types of businesses or organizations and get more people involved, it changes a person's life. And when all of a sudden they're not just maybe they're not just putting money in a bank or a 401k, but they're saying, oh, well, I'm involved in this business and this business and this business, especially when they expand what they're involved in, because maybe they're renting land on Worbli because maybe they've said, oh, I'm going to get some utility tokens and rent those out to applications that need it. Or maybe they're doing it on EOS, or maybe they're doing it on another chain, or maybe they're, it's just opening the door for people in some really unique and beautiful ways. And I think potentially leveling the playing field for a lot of folks from a financial perspective.
I think you nailed it. One of the things that I'm really excited about, which I've heard whispers of from Dominic recently, is tokenized real estate opportunities. So just stuff that's typically reserved for institutional investors with big bucks. All of a sudden, if you can tokenize a loan, you take a lot of administration costs, and the barrier to entry all of a sudden drops. So when there are applications like that where you have peer-to-peer opportunities, where you have a massive chunk of
real estate that has been thin sliced or tokenized, where you're like, oh, I actually own the faucet in that house because that's how much I've invested, or that's what I'm, I mean, I don't want to use the word investment, but that's what I'm putting into it because, and now all of a sudden they're participating in something that they maybe weren't able to participate in before because no real estate person or financial place is going to say, yeah, you can put in $2 into this. Owning this house.
Well, all of a sudden, little Jimmy who works at Burger King on the weekends, if he wants to, can take $50 and put it into something that's probably going to give him a really nice return, which is that's what I love. I know you and Dominic talk about access a lot to a lot of different opportunities, and that's the one thing that really gets me excited about Worbli. So, Sean, I know how busy you are, my friend. I won't keep you too long, but I do want to thank you just for taking a few minutes and chatting about Worbli.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, man.
Always a pleasure, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do this a little bit more and tokenize everything, man.
Sounds great. Fantastic idea, man. I love it.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Yeah, sounds good. Bye.